morning to all. My name is Roberto. I work in a company called Silex. It's a company located in Belo Horizonte, Brazil. Belo Horizonte is not a very well-known city outside Brazil, but it's the third largest city in Brazil. It's close to Rio and São Paulo. Like we were discussing yesterday with Nicolas, it's only 1 hour flight, so it's close in Brazilian terms. And I have prepared today a presentation to talk about our impressions about Tryton and GNU Health, and why we have chosen to work with Tryton. And I try to present a little bit of our history of what we do and what we are doing now. Okay? So, about our company. We are a small company. We are a commercial company. The company has been founded in the year 2000, but we were not the original founders of the company. Later, some employees of the company bought the company from the former owner, and we became associates of the company on the year 2008. Okay? What do we currently do, and what does the company have been doing so far? We have a legacy VB6 ERP system, okay? It's called GAT, or GAT, like we say in Brazil. And we are specialized in providing ERP support and development and implementations. And we are focused on technical assistance services, okay? Because we have to provide the functionalities related to the regular parties and suppliers and customers and the financial part. But this market has a special characteristic that it has to control the works and has to control hours of work, which in English we could call work orders, or órdenes de servicio. See? And it's a legacy ERP system. It's developed in VB6. It's a closed source system. We have thought a lot about opening its source code, but it was not developed to be opened. So we think it would be impossible for, or very, very difficult for a broader community to maintain its software. Nowadays, this software has only one maintainer that she has been working with this software for 10 years now. And we have tried many times to teach someone to work with the software, but we came to the conclusion that this process is not worthwhile. And she's the only maintainer. She's called Yasmini. And she does the maintenance and bug corrections and some minor implementations. Okay? We are 12 people working there, including us, me and Elena, which is she's here. And we have people working on the commercial part, the support, development, finance, and communication. Okay, we never heard of open source or free software before. When we started working in 2008, we didn't know what it was. We never heard of that. We thought that free software was something free as in free beer, some software that you could use because someone was giving it away. And we had a process of development that I'm calling here homemade development. We developed everything related to this software, okay? Nowadays, everything is still done by hand. For example, we have to write SQL queries to make the simplest crude operations. Yasmini still uses the so-called rapid application development from Microsoft. That's not so rapid, maybe only for beginners, because it's quite cumbersome when you have a large system to have to draw every screen, to have to draw every form, and have to draw every report. Maybe for a small system it's okay, but a big system, a GAP has now like 400 different windows, so it's very difficult to maintain it, drawing each screen, drawing each field, okay? And we still use a centralized version control for GAP. It's only one developer. Sometimes we have an assistant, so 2 developers. So for us, it's not a big problem to have this old-fashioned way to develop that kind of software. It was not a big problem. And one thing I would like to point out here is the high cost of change. Because we have now about 100 customers using the system. It's a very difficult process to try to make them change their systems. It's difficult to train a support staff. We have 3 people working on support. It's hard to train a commercial, people working on the sales area. We have 2 people working on the sales area. So we can never underestimate the cost of change, especially the human cost of change. Our first idea was to try to develop a more advanced system, because we thought that our business could only develop if we had a more state-of-the-art system, not an old legacy system. But after weighting those questions, after balancing those questions, we came to the conclusion that technology is one thing and a business model is another thing. So, of course, if we are talking about software, your business depends on the kind of technology you use. But there is not a direct link between an advanced technology or a better technology and a better return on your business, or it would be easier to make business only because you have a better piece of software. Okay? But one thing happened, and that's when we really started to study free and open source software, and that's when we really came to the conclusion that it was the time to change, because Microsoft, I have chosen a cartoon from Mafalda because we're here in Buenos Aires. My wife loves Mafalda, and I like Mafalda very much too. And Microsoft decided that the programming language wouldn't exist anymore, and the company simply switched to another platform, and it provided some compatibility between the languages, it provided some migration path between the languages, but in practice it was super difficult to make this kind of transition. So we decided after that we would never again depend on a unilateral decision made by a company that, of course, we do not control, that could jeopardize from day to night our business that we have been working so hard to create, working so hard to maintain. And we started to look for some alternatives. We didn't choose Tryton as a first alternative. I came from a Java background. I didn't even know Python. We only heard about Python as a kind of toy language, a kind of, it's okay to use Python to do some prototyping and to do some tests and small software, but we didn't think it was possible to build a real system, a real production system using Python. We didn't know that at the time. And we started to look and just Googling open source Java ERPs. And we met some systems, we met some pieces of software that we started to study. One that I would like to point out is OpenBravo. That's a system that's developed by a company in Spain, in Barcelona especially, in Catalonia. And we started to study the system and we made some training, paying training with the company. But we still felt that we were somehow attached to that software vendor, because they developed their own custom license, that it was a little bit like a Mozilla license, but they could, for example, put their name inside the system, they could put some advertisement inside the system, and you would be somehow locked to that software supplier. But the idea seemed interesting. And we came to know other pieces of software, of course, that are very well known, like Linux, like Apache, that are licensed using a much more liberal license, or a much more copyleft license, sorry. And they are not maintained by a central company. Like Nicolas said before, the idea of the difference between the philosophy of B2CK is B2CK is not going to be the owner of the system. And one thing that concerns us now, I'm trying to count here, I'm trying to report here a little bit of our history, but I'm trying to point out some thoughts, because our main concern now, that's why I asked how does B2CK lives, our main concern now is how to support this kind of development. Because without some funding, some kind of serious funding, we feel that it's impossible on the long run to maintain this kind of project. We cannot maintain this kind of complexity only by the forces of our will, because it depends on a small number of persons. Okay? So this is an old example, probably you have heard this example before, that talks about network efficiency. We have an example here about that talks about two guys that they built spears and axes. And as you can see here, Oz is much less efficient than Adam to build spears. And the question is, spears and axes. Well, Adam takes 4 hours to make a spear, and Adam takes 1 hour to make a spear. Adam takes 3 hours to make an axe, and Oz takes only 2 hours to make an axe. So does Oz needs Adam? Yes, he does. Why? Because if Adam makes 2 spears and Oz makes Adam makes 2 axes and Oz makes 2 spears, they will at the end both have saved 1 hour of work each. So I think this is a powerful thought, because I'm not originally a developer. I am studying software development at the university now. My original formation is as a lawyer. And I have worked the most part of my life as a philosophy teacher at the university. And of course, I did not have the abilities to develop software as someone who has been working their entire life on that kind of activity have. But there are some things that the main developers cannot do. For example, what we have been working so far, the translation to Brazilian Portuguese. And there are some things that even the brightest developer can do. That's a known example. It's very difficult to read your code and to find some errors that someone else who didn't write that could do it much better. And we have been doing that so far. What we have been doing now? Well, another point before that. We think because of that we should work to increase the network, okay? In Brazil at least, I don't know elsewhere, maybe in Argentina it's much more well known, in Barcelona, in Catalonia, we have a larger community, maybe in Belgium, but in Brazil no one knows what Tryton is. No one, absolutely no one. No one I have met, okay? I have made one experience, okay? I have been to many different conferences this year talking about Tryton, and I have made on that conferences one experience. I have offered a workshop. This happened at Latinoware last month in Foz do Iguaçu, nearby here. And I have offered a workshop called the Tryton Application Platform. And we had only 2 attendees to that workshop. Maybe they were curious, but they never heard of Tryton before. They were curious and they want to know what this Tryton platform is. And on that same event, I have offered another workshop called Agile Application Development with Python. And that was the attendance to the workshop. Because when you say, I'm going to give a workshop about Tryton, nobody knows, at least in Brazil, of course, I may be wrong in other countries. But I have decided to present the subject in a different way to see if there is an interest in the subject, okay, and how can we create awareness and how can we raise the attention to that kind of subject. And I think the effect, the image expresses itself. The effect was much better than the former one. Well, what we have been doing so far? We have been doing so far what I call software archaeology. Why? Because I'm not a Python developer. I consider that I'm still learning how to program in Python. I'm studying Python a lot, and but I don't feel I have I'm not a super Python programmer. And we are now studying the Tryton platform. We're really studying the Tryton platform, module by module. We have made a literal, almost literal translation to be able to put that translation on version 3.8. And now we are checking every string that we have translated, to small errors, to small inconsistencies, to some kinds of terms that are not known in Brazil, especially, for example, in the accountancy module. And we are making experiences using Tryton, because the documentation only goes so far, okay? I believe it's a recurrent subject in this kind of conference. I believe the documentation, of course, could be better. And we are doing that. I got tired of listening and of reading people saying the documentation could be better. And every time someone in a communal work says something could be better, I think the correct answer is, why don't you do that yourself? And that's what we are doing, okay? But, of course, we are writing that documentation in Portuguese. We have created a wiki, our wiki. Of course, it's not our wiki, but the only guy who writes at that wiki, it's me, so it's my wiki. But I'm taking module by module, reading every screen, trying to perform every operation, looking at the database to see what happens, looking at the lines of the database to see what happens, and then I go to the documentation. And after you see something happening on the database and you go back to the documentation and then you go to the mailing list, sometimes it starts to make sense. We have now finished reviewing the stock module, because we have a customer that we have sold the training on stock module, and we have to be quite capacitated on stock module. I'm going to talk about that customer in a minute. And we have now just finished to review the entire accountancy module. And it was extremely difficult to do that because it's a very technical subject. I'm not an accountant too. And we have first to work with an accountant so he could help us to understand the financial reports and the registers. And they're a little bit, but just a little bit different from Brazil, but they can really be used directly in Brazil. But that's what I call software archaeology, okay? We have to find bits and pieces to try to make sense of a greater and broader picture. Of course, the community is great. If we put any question on the mailing list, this question would be answered immediately, almost immediately. Every bug reported we have sent, it has been corrected in 1 hour, 2 hours. Axel asked what would happen if the plane crashes. When I saw Nicolas, Cedric here, I thought, who is looking at the bug reports? Okay, but what we have been doing so far is sometimes we find some bug and Cedric corrects the bug, Nicolas corrects the bug, we do some testing, and that's okay. The process is very efficient, very rapid. We're very pleased to see that. Okay. Next, what we would think, it's our impression, okay, maybe we are wrong, but we think Tryton is an excellent framework or platform for developers, but it's not a great platform for end users, okay? If you know what is a code repository, if you know what is a code review process, if you know what's a pull request, okay? If you know what means looks good to me, and so on and so on. If you know how to use Mercurial, you would be at home. But it's not an easy process, okay? I had to learn that myself, okay? But my experience tells me that it's not a common knowledge. It's not, it's very difficult to find someone For example, it's very difficult to find someone to hire, at least in Brazil, of course, that can master all that stack of technology. Okay? And I think after you have mastered that, it's not difficult at all to work with Tryton. It's not really difficult. Okay? I think Cedric is being every day more and more polite and more forthcoming than this. The last commit I've made, it was wrong, the commit message was wrong, and Cedric answered me, this time I will correct that for you. Next time you do it right, okay? But this time I will correct that for you. And I was, I'm very pleased. I'm starting to feel that Cedric's starting to like me after that. Okay? But I think the system could be more friendly to naive users, to end users, because I think we could create a broader community. And that's what we, on the limit of our capabilities, we're trying to do. We are creating that public documentation regarding Tryton and regarding GNU Health. And we have been contacted by different companies, by different people, because of that documentation. We have not spent 1 cent doing advertisement on Google AdWords, on Facebook, or anything like that. We only have created that documentation that is far from complete yet. But because of that, we have been contacted by different companies, especially in the health sector, okay, in Brazil, in Portugal, and in Angola, okay? Because if you write GNU Health or if you write Tryton in Google in Portuguese, our reference or the reference to our documentation is the first one that shows up, okay? So that's a good thing to do. But here are some thoughts, okay? This website problem has been raised before. I think the site is very simple, okay? It's very easy to maintain sometimes, but I think it could be more friendly, okay? Maybe I can contribute to that. Maybe I can contribute to that. The actual one seems, this was pointed out before, I'm not the one saying that, but seems over that project, okay? That's why I brought a camera, that's why I'm going to take pictures, and I'm going to post that, and I'm going to broadcast that, okay? I think maybe Tryton, that's an idea, okay? I could have an official Twitter, even Free Software Foundation has one, why not? And I think it could have a better documentation for beginners, maybe. For example, the accountant's model, we have a description of the fields, but we do not have a description of the processes that happen, for example. There's a thread on the mailing list that have been started by Cedric, discussing the name of a process. That would be, I think, accountant's non-defro. You were asking for a name for that kind of process. And I think that after 2 or 3 tries, no one answered, and you said, no, I have chosen a name. That would be accountancy or accountant non-defro process. And there's no reference to that. Okay, for example, it's just an example. And that's what we are trying to make. Of course, with our limitations, not trying to ask repeated questions, not trying to ask dumb questions, trying to follow the list, and trying to study what happens inside the system. We're not talking, of course, about architecture of the system. We're talking about its functionalities. Okay? Well, our work so far. We have been talking about Tryton and GNU Health, depending on the kind of event. This year we have been to FISLI, that's a large event, the largest free software event that happens in Porto Alegre, in the south of Brazil. We have been to Rio Info. It's an event that happens in Rio. It's a proprietary and free software and hardware event. We have been to Latinoware last month, and there is an event in our city called YPython. We were able to present and talk a little bit about Tryton, about its structure, its idea, its maintenance, a little bit about its history. Okay? We have been working on this wiki. Like I mentioned before, we have been working on the translation, and we have created on GitHub, a Tryton resources directory. What is that? There are some resources available on a Google Wiki, on Google Code, that's now dead. Google has canceled that project. We have some resources available on Tryton website. We have some resources made by the community, for example, here in Argentina, in Barcelona. We have many tweeters that tweet every day or almost every week, I don't know, about Tryton. And every time, and we have somewhere and sometimes some news about Tryton and about GNU Health. So I have created this directory. It's only a simple directory, okay? I will later show this directory to you. And I will propose a challenge, like they have made the sticker bottom. We have made some stickers from Silex and from Tryton and from GNU Health too. And I'm going to give those stickers if you make a pull request or a push request. I always mix that because in Portuguese they're the opposite. To the repository, adding a link, okay? If you know some resource, if you know some news, if you know some Twitter, if you know something about Tryton, and if you know something about GNU project, please make a pull request, and we're going to add that reference on that GitHub. That directory can be copied, can be put on the main website. I don't care where it's going to be. But it was an internal resource that we were using when we were looking for reference about Tryton. So far, I have made some links, and Cedric made 2 pull requests to that repository. Okay, so I'm going to mention, after I talked yesterday to Nicolas, 2 cases, okay, 2 interesting cases we have been working with GNU Health and Tryton. One case is in this hospital in Belo Horizonte. It's a public hospital linked to a university. It's called Hospital Universitário São José. It uses a proprietary ERP system for health, but it has a kidney transplants clinic that felt that they could use better information regarding the assistance to the patients. Why? Because the ERP system of the hospital is an ERP system, it's not a health system. It deals very well with invoicing, with calendar, with patients, and some prescriptions, but it was not capable of dealing with the kind of information that kidney transplant clinic had. They have a system called the white sheet, okay? And it's because once a patient has been transplanted, he will be a patient for the rest of his life. So he has to go back monthly at least to the clinic and to register some clinical data about temperature and the presence of some substances on the blood, how the drugs that he's taking to avoid rejection are behaving. And this list is done by hand in a big cartoon board called the white sheet. And what we have been doing so far, we're making the specification of that kind of information, okay, so that the doctors can register that information directly on the computer and generate the analysis that they find useful. Like, for example, the survival analysis, the global survival of the patient, the survival of the transplant. What we are using there, we are using GNU Health for patients, prescriptions, appointments, plus this custom module. We have not finished creating that custom module yet, because the doctors cannot agree easily on which kind of information they want to register, okay? We are importing data from the ERP of the hospital. We are directly importing the data from an Oracle database using Proteus and Python plus a cron job. It's a very simple script that reads some views created on the database and updates the Tryton database, okay? And we are running, that's the best stack that we have been using so far. It's super easy to configure. We have been running on CentOS and using Supervisor to keep the process running, okay? Another interesting case is this company called Isol. It's a company from Luanda in Angola. They found us because we have written a documentation in Portuguese. And they came to us looking for GNU Health because they have a customer that wanted to manage medicine supplies, okay? This customer is a public sector customer, call it Direção Provincial de Saúde de Huila. Huila is a province in the south part of Angola. But after we have started the training, what we have done, we have built the server, uploaded the server, created the supervisor, backup routines, and so far. But after we have started the training process, we realized that they didn't need GNU Health. They needed a stock control system. So we have switched from GNU Health because they do not have prescriptions, they do not have, they do not apply directly the medicaments to the patients. They only control the stock of public sector medicaments. So what we are doing there, we are training them remotely, and then they are going to train the people and the workers on Lubango, which is the name of the capital city of Huila. Okay? That's an interesting case. And they came to us just because we have made the translation to Brazilian Portuguese. Okay? Well, future projects. We are formatting now a system to participate on different public concurrences in Brazil, okay? Dealing with, I don't know how to say that in English, but health surveillance, I think it's a good way to express that. Regarding especially dengue, malaria, and leishmaniose. What we are planning to do, we are planning to create a very simple mobile client, okay? Maybe it could even be an offline mobile client, just to replace a paper form that the health agent writes some information about the places, the houses he visits. For example, the health agent is responsible for an area inside a city, and he visits every house, writing down if he finds larvae and eggs, or if he finds any evidence of Aedes aegypti, the vector for dengue, for example, for dengue, chikungunya, and Zika, tropical diseases. Okay? How is this process made in the greatest parts of city in Brazil? It's done by hand in a paper form, and after that, that data is transported to an Excel spreadsheet. Okay? The project we are trying to create is to create a very simple mobile client so that this agent would not have to write that on a paper form. After that, we're going to transport those data to GNU Health and Tryton, depending on the case. GNU Health already has a module regarding that kind of information, for example, about dengue, that could be easily customized to different kind of data that each city would want to register. And after that, the next point that we have been developing with the health surveillance of Foz do Iguaçu is to plot that data on a map using PostGIS as a geographic database and QGIS as a plotting platform to do that. Okay? The idea is to create georeferenced reports about dengue, rabies, leishmanioses, or every kind of zoonosis that the health surveillance system has to deal with. Okay, that's a future project. We are working on that now. There are some research offerings open in Brazil, and we are trying to apply to that in order to get some funding to do that. Okay? In the end, like I mentioned to you before, I took the liberty to create some stickers, okay, in order for you to contribute to the project. This is a sticker from our company. I'm going to give it to you, okay? Please stick them to your laptop. And I have stolen the trademark from Luis and created a sticker for GNU Health using the raised hands, okay, that I thought it was very beautiful. And I took the liberty also to create like a slogan to Tryton, okay, because I think that the description of Tryton, the website, is a description for developers, okay, and for nerds. It's not a description for human beings. But I took some words there, and I am proposing this kind of slogan, taking the words from there: modularity, scalability, and security for business. Okay, just to singularize what the program is and what is it for. Because if someone starts to read that Tryton is a 3-tier, high-level application development platform, I don't know what that is, okay? Okay, that's it. Thank you. If you want to contact us and know some information about what we're doing, this is my email, my personal email, my Twitter account, my GitHub account, and well, our company is called Silex. If you Google that, you're going to find it right away. It's different from an Argentinian company called Silex. I don't know if they're here. Okay, maybe it's a coincidence. Sometimes people ask if we are the same company. I don't know if that happened to you here. And that's it. We would like to present, and it's very nice to be here to meet the friends. We talk all year round on the email, on the IRQ chat. What?
Question.
And of course, if you have any questions that I can answer, that we can discuss here, well, thank you very much.
At the beginning, you say that you have another software, the old one in Microsoft technology. How much of the percentage of the company is in Tryton, and how much in the old one? And if you can convert some, I listen that it's very difficult, but maybe you can convert some of them.
You mean how much of the actual income of the company is based on Tryton?
Yeah, or the technology.
95% of the income is based on the older system.
Okay.
Because we have a model that works, okay? The customers pay for the training, they pay for support, okay? And they pay a year fee for that kind of support. But in marketing terms, this product is what we call the cow of the company. It maintains the company. Mm-hmm. And what we are trying to do is to use that basis that we have to create other kind of businesses. And we grew very fond of this open source and free software model because we believe on that model, not only because it's an efficient way to create software, but we believe on that model as an efficient way to create freedom, to create development, to promote health, to promote businesses, to promote technology. And we think, and that's what we are trying to make, we think that we can migrate from that older model, to that older proprietary model, to that new model. But on the beginning, we thought that we could make that fast. But we came to the conclusion that this is a process that's going to take years on the making. So what we have been selling regarding Tryton and GNU Health are services. We have some customers that we have provided training in Brazil, mainly in Brazil, remote training, especially we use Skype, Hangouts, any technology available to do that. Now that we have a web client, it's much easier to put up a server online and to provide that training on that server without having to create the infrastructure. But that's not a recurrent source of income. We sell a training, we offer that training, but next month we have to find other customers. The only two customers that we have that pay us regular income are those customers we have mentioned. the customer is in Angola, and that hospital, because we do development, support, and training in a regular basis to them. Okay?
You talking about having a Twitter account for Tryton, but how do you think it should be managed?
A Twitter account.
Yeah.
Well, the first thought that comes to my mind, I can manage that, no problem. I can, for example, follow other Twitters, and I can follow the mailing list, and I can filter the main subjects, and then just post there. I don't know if that's okay with everybody, or if anyone else wants to have the access to the account, I think that's fine. But I am offering myself humbly to do that, okay? Because my wife is a saleswoman, and she always told me that no matter what you do, you have to advertise that. And on the first part of my development career, I was very concentrated on developing and building the best software in the world and not telling anyone what I was doing. And now I think I'm trying to change, to turn this process backwards. First trying to announce, first trying to tell the world what we are doing, and then trying to get more abilities doing that. I must confess, I didn't know much about the stock module until I sold the training about the stock module. Okay? We have done, we're not completely unresponsible and crazy. We have been working with Tryton and studying Tryton, but we have never really studied Tryton until we had to. We have been here at Timbra, we did the training here at Timbra, but you know, one thing is to do some training and to try out some operations. Another thing, completely different, is when your customer starts to ask you, what if a truck arrives here and the shipment is broken and I have to cancel? And then you really need to understand what's going on. So we know that we have to have a great understanding of Tryton, but we are putting much weight and importance on the broadcasting and creating awareness about the system. And if that's okay, I can manage that, and this managed can be shared among many members of the community. I don't know, but I can do that. I could do that with great passion. Okay. So,
Hello. First of all, thank you so much, Roberto, for your great presentation. I think that you are an example and the flagship for both Tryton and New Health in Brazil. And personally, I think that you shouldn't be that down. On the contrary, your business model and the way you're working should be copied by many of us. It's funny what you were talking about, some of the projects that you just showed, I didn't know. And I think that that's part of probably something that Cedric was asking, and we've been saying also in other places, to have some sort of a repository where all the projects that are being done in the community kind of have like a central point of repository that are Tryton based. So we can of course put the one on the New Health, because that builds community by itself. When people comes and say, oh, do you have a success story, or do you have an implementation case, or whatever, and all of the sudden it's like, oh, sure, but it's like kind of like islands going around. So if we have one single point, probably coming from the Tryton homepage, that said, okay, here are the list of the projects that we have, divided maybe even by type of businesses or something like that. So you go there, and no matter what type of Tryton-based project we have, we can just have that Well, I think that would help a lot. And
when I saw that email on the mailing list asking for cases, I thought it was a great initiative. I really didn't feel comfortable enough to submit those cases because they're not ready yet. But after we have talked yesterday, I'm going to submit them. And every time someone asks me if I have a reference regarding GNU Health implementation, I answer, do you know Jamaica? Jamaica is a 3 million country, it has 350 health centers, and that's the big reference. And even about Jamaica, I was talking to Sebastian yesterday, I do not have a great information about that. How is the project going? Who is working there? For example, if I need to talk to someone there, who should I look for? And I think it would be very nice in order to help create that awareness and to build up that community.
I think that's one of the things that we have to work with. When we put something like that, put some sort of reference to who we can contact. And I wouldn't be that afraid of putting things that are not done yet, because by that token, we will never put anything. Seriously, I mean, these are ongoing projects, and some of them will go well, some of them won't go well, but who cares? I mean, really, at the end of the day, that builds community, and if we wait until the completion of projects that take years, then it's, we will never start building that large community at all. Like, for example, well, I will talk about that later, but I wouldn't be afraid of putting something that says, hey, you know what, we are starting this project. Because at the end of the day, that's a reality, and that will probably call people from the area to say, oh, good, I might join that project now. But if you don't put it, they will never know.
Okay. Well, thank you again very much. And, well, it's very nice to be here. Thank you.